land was allocated in accordance with the number of mouths per family, equally. It had been only 9 years since the men of the peasantry had returned from the Red Army and rushed into the land they had wrested for themselves. Then, suddenly, there were kulaks, and there were poor peasants. How could that be? Sometimes it was a result of differences in initial stock and equipment. Sometimes it may have resulted from luck in the mixture of the family. But wasn't it most often a matter of hard work and persistence? And now these peasants, whose bread grain had fed Russia in 1928, were hastily uprooted by local good-for-nothings and city people sent in from the outside. Like raging beasts, abandoned every concept of humanity, abandoning all humane principles, which had evolved through the millennia. They began to round up the very best farmers and their families and drive them, stripped of their possessions, naked into the northern wastes, into the tundra and the taiga. Such a mass movement could not help but develop subsequent ramifications. Then it was also necessary to get rid of those peasants, some of them not at all prosperous, who because of their daring, their physical strength, their determination, and their outspokenness at meetings, and their love of justice, were favorites with their fellow villagers. And by virtue of their independence, were therefore dangerous to the leadership of the collective farm. Beyond this, in every village there were people who, in one way or another, had personally gotten in the way of the local activists. This was the perfect time to settle accounts with them of jealousy, envy, and insult. A new word was needed for all these new victims as a class, and it was born. By this time it had no social or economic content whatsoever, but it had a marvelous sound. Podkulachnik. A person aiding the kulaks. In other words, I consider you an accomplice of the enemy, and that finishes you. The most tattered, landless laborer in the countryside would quite easily be labeled a podkulachnik. And so it was that these two terms embraced everything that constituted the essence of the village, its energy, its keenness of wit, its love of hard work, its resistance, and its conscience. They were torn up by the roots, and collectivization was accomplished. And I just wanted to explain that I looked up this word, podkulachnik, and in Russian, the word, of course, kulak means the peasant, the rich peasant, I guess. And in Russian, the prefix pod means beneath or under, or I think controlled could be a way to say it, or serves, and the nick at the end, the suffix nick, is kind of the same as the word in English, like a plumber, plumbing or plumb, a person who plums, a plumber, that ER, that's kind of what the nick is on the end. A person who is or